Yes, according to this script, Shao Kahn's real name is Who knew? Mortal Kombat Annihilation. Oh boy. I covered this film about as deep as anyone can back in 2019 with the history of Mortal Kombat Part 6. But thanks to Warner Brothers and WWE, you can't watch that video anymore. Thanks guys, that's almost 250,000 views and thousands of comments from you guys sharing your stories that are just completely lost forever now. Great, appreciate that. A month or two ago, I covered the 1995 live-action Mortal Kombat film again, but this wasn't a simple retread of what I'd already said in that prior video. Rather than going into the production details and behind-the-scenes information, I focused on the story, the characters, the structure. I went into why the movie worked as well as it did and why it still holds up today. This, naturally, made me want to cover the 1997 sequel as well, that being Mortal Kombat Annihilation. And I'm just going to be honest with you, for a while there, I had no idea what the hell it was that I wanted to say. I toyed with the idea of Mortal Kombat Annihilation, so bad it's good, which might be fun, but a lot of what I would say there would be a total retread of things I said in the history of Part 6. I nearly put this entire video concept on the shelf before I realized there is more to say here. There's more to say because while I've talked about everything from this movie we've seen, I've never really gone into what we didn't see. And I don't mean the casting process or financials. I mean, I went and tracked down the first draft of the script and I read the whole thing, front to back. There is so much on these pages that did not make it to the screen. It's crazy. And with that, we've got today's episode of Mortal Kombat Monday. What exactly was cut out? Would this cut content have made for a better film overall? And would we have a better opinion of Mortal Kombat Annihilation had this script not been so messed with? Let's talk about it. This is what could have been Mortal Kombat Annihilation. Every video here on 616 Entertainment is made possible by my supporters over on Patreon. If you enjoyed the show here today, consider signing up. You'll get early access, exclusive videos and podcasts and more. Pro Wrestling Tees has the merch. As always, thank you for watching. Let me just say this up front. The way I'm going to edit this video should hopefully make it really fun to watch. Rather than just showing the pages of the script on screen for minutes at a time, I'm going to use footage from various games, mostly focused on the characters in question. Footage of the theatrical release of Annihilation and the pages from the script. All of that should keep this from being boring to watch. Or if you're one of the people who just listens to this stuff, you're not going to know the difference anyway, so it doesn't really matter. We ready to go? Let's get to it. I'm not going to run through the whole script from page 1 to 110 in order. We're going to jump around. One of the funniest and most disjointed aspects of the Annihilation we got centers around Nightwolf. You remember Nightwolf's role in the film, right? Raiden tells Liu Kang, seek the counsel of one called Nightwolf, and that Nightwolf would have the answers. Well, Liu finds him. There's mention of 3 tests that Liu has to pass, and then these 3 tests just never play out. This story thread is left wide open, and Nightwolf is never seen nor heard from again. That was the movie we saw, but in the script, this thread was completed. There was meant to be substance to Nightwolf after all. The first of Liu Kang's 3 tests was to face his fears. Remember how we saw Nightwolf knock Liu Kang out with the blunt end of his hatchet? Well, Liu was supposed to wake up buried up to his neck in sand. Nightwolf walks over to a cactus and he kicks it and breaks it in half, and thousands of spiders were to pour out of the body of the ruptured trunk. Carrying the top portion of the cactus, Nightwolf would cover Liu Kang's head with all of these spiders. They would inject this psychedelic venom into Liu's bloodstream, And in an out-of-body experience taking place somewhere in the Great Beyond, our champion was to be confronted by shadow demons who shouted his many failures at him from a distance. Reminders of his brother's death from the first film, taunts over Kitana's kidnapping at the hands of Scorpion here, so on and so forth. Liu's animality would be teased, with his arms growing scaly, his eyes were going to turn red, and his screams would take the form of fire, banishing the shadow demons. This whole thing was meant to be the first of Nightwolf's tests. Now, in the theatrical film, we do see the majority of his second test play out, that being the test of loyalty, although all of the context and explanation is stripped away. This is where Jade is trying to get into Liu Kang's pants, and Liu Kang passes the test because he's like, no, my heart belongs to another, I'm with Kitana. But in the script, they flesh this out further. Jade is pouring it on. She's like, we can melt the snow of this frozen desert, which, holy shit, man. Liu Kang versus Jade in this scene, after he turns her down, was actually scripted to be a much longer fight. Jade's staff, her bow gimmick, was supposed to be able to turn into a snake, and it was going to wrap itself around Liu Kang at one point, but, you know, none of this made it to the screen. Liu's third test comes into play with Raiden's death, which was Liu Kang having faith in himself and his teammates to stand up to Shao Kahn and his invaders in this final battle. Yes, at the end here, Raiden would bring up Nightwolf's tests again, and not only tell Liu Kang that he passed them, but he would reiterate what the tests were. That is a far cry from the movie we got, where the tests just never happened. And Raiden was not supposed to be killed by getting hit with like the 5th projectile he takes in this movie. In the script, he goes out a hero. During the final battle, there are hundreds of Shao Kahn's soldiers rushing toward the good guys. Raiden sees this happening, he distracts them, they chase after him, and he gets this giant, like, broken castle to crumble down on top of them, and he gets caught in the rubble as well. I brought up Jade there for a second when I was going over the second of Nightwolf's tests, and let's focus on Jade here for a minute, because her role in the script was actually much larger. In the movie, Jade arrives as a part of Nightwolf's tests. She eventually turns on the good guys, and Shao Kahn feeds her to one of those CGI abominations that don't even exist in the Mortal Kombat universe. Fun fact, these monsters don't exist in the script either, so where they came from is beyond me. Jade not being monster food means that she makes it further into the story, in the script, and that's where we'll take a look at the final battle. Much like the movie we saw on screen, we get Jax versus Motaro, Kitana versus Sindel, both of which were scripted much longer, with Jax using his missile launch projectile and Motaro even shooting lasers out of his tail, but this was all cut. And then there's Sonya versus Ermac. In the script, Sonya hits her upward bicycle kick move at the edge of a staircase, which, you know, would have been awesome to see. Liu Kang was not supposed to just be slowly walking toward Shao Kahn while all of this was happening, as the movie shows. This is where Liu Kang versus Jade 2 was supposed to happen, though I should mention some of Liu's awful dialogue here. In between kicks, Liu Kang goes, "This is for betraying me! This is for betraying Kitana! And this is for being the biggest bitch in the world!" It's also worth noting that in the script, it took Kitana, Sonya, and Jax all teaming up on Sindel in order to take her out, rather than 97% of Sindel versus Kitana taking place off-screen and then it's just over. And Sindel, how about it? She was featured far more in the script as well. Her backstory of killing herself in order to escape being Shao Kahn's wife, the murder of her husband, losing her children, it's all explored. Kitana even details that Khan is able to invade Earthrealm because Sindel's body was buried here. It wasn't supposed to just be some Shao Kahn has broken the rules, which completely undermines the entirety of the first movie. And Sindel's connected to Nightwolf at one point, so we can tie all of this together here. Nightwolf had a role protecting his people's sacred grounds. Sacred grounds that Sindel and Shao Kahn were to show up on looking for Liu Kang and the other Earthrealmers. Sindel was going to murder the only remaining medicine man left in the desert, who was Nightwolf's friend, and she was going to send the invaders to kill Nightwolf. This is when Nightwolf would transform into his animality and just absolutely destroy like 25 members of Shao Kahn's forces. Khan shows up, and with a wave of his hand, he would boil the waters on Nightwolf's land, turning it blood red. The fish and the wildlife in the water would float to the surface, caught in the wake of Khan's destruction. He would decimate Nightwolf's prayer site and would ignore Nightwolf's one-on-one challenge, and a back and forth that went, "You will pay for this, Khan. For my people, I will make you pay."
I could kill him now, but soon every human will be destroyed in the merger of realms. Let him live these last days knowing he could not save his own people.
That shit is hardcore, dude. And Nightwolf looks like $1,000,000, standing up for himself, standing up for his people, and standing up for his land, rather than, disappearing and not mattering at all. Remember how Smoke fights Liu Kang and Cyrax fights Sonya and Jax, and Sector is just not in the movie at all for some reason? Well, he was supposed to be. Smoke doesn't fight Liu Kang in the script. Sector fights Liu Kang. Later on, when Mileena attacks Sonya and Jax, and then Jax inexplicably disappears so it can just be Sonya versus Mileena one-on-one, this was written as Sonya and Jax versus Mileena and Smoke. At one point, Smoke was going to launch the 3-pronged harpoon out of his chest, and Jax would deflect it with his metal arm. A high kick from Sonya was set to knock Mileena's mask off, revealing her disfigured face. Oh man. Jax finishes Smoke with his railroad spike fatality, beating him into the ground, and Sonya was set to drown Mileena in the mud instead of just kicking her in the face. That is, a lot cooler than what we got, wouldn't you say? Shiva. Let's talk about Shiva. In the movie, she's there, and then she's there again, and then she gets squashed by a falling cage and she's dead. In the script, Shiva was supposed to fight Liu Kang in the opening scene, and she actually was written to get the better of him. Later on, Liu Kang vs. Shiva 2 is labeled in the script as, and I quote, "a spectacular fight featuring the most advanced interaction between digital effects and live-action humans ever seen before. This technical ability to create perfect, fluid unison in their combat will make this one of the most spectacular fights in the film." Liu Kang was going to hit a bicycle kick on Shiva through a cement wall. Shiva was going to shoot her forearm blast thing. Liu Kang was going to hit an uppercut, knocking Shiva through the ceiling, where the fight would continue on the next level, which is straight out of Mortal Kombat 3. Liu Kang was going to throw punches. Shiva would grab his hands with her bottom arms and then fuck him up with her top arms. And the fight ends with Liu Kang hitting a flying kick, and Shiva falls off the top of the tower and splats at the bottom. I would have loved to have seen this, Remember how Rain is in this movie and he doesn't do literally anything? He's killed off for next to no reason and he doesn't even get a fight. Well, Rain isn't even in the script. This was supposed to just be an original character, totally nameless, just a nothing guy, and no one would care when he dies. Somewhere along the way, I guess somebody was like, hey, use a character the fans know. Rain has a line in the movie that Cabal and Stryker had been captured, but we never see them in the movie. What's even more sad is that Cabal and Stryker are used in the script, in what was a gigantic piece completely removed from the film. There's a whole thing about Shao Kahn having slaves who work themselves to death in his cobalt mine, which is overseen by a mixture of Shokan and Nomad guards, with Baraka acting as its general. Nomad was the term used in place of Tarkatan, by the way, because Tarkatans didn't have a name yet, and they wouldn't until 2006's Mortal Kombat Deception. After their capture, Cabal and Stryker were forced to work in this mine, and they would secretly be plotting to rescue Kitana from captivity. They would later battle Khan and Sindel's forces, allowing the heroes, with Kitana, to escape unhindered. And by the way, the slaves working in this cobalt mine, once they were used up beyond Shao Kahn's liking, they would be sold off to the Lin Kuei in order to be indoctrinated into the Cyber Initiative. Do you see how many pieces of connective tissue were removed here? Pieces of tissue that were removed and completely thrown away while not being replaced with anything to fill that space. I'm not saying that this was a 10 out of 10 script, but it's certainly more cohesive than the final product that we got. Baraka was meant to be in Rain's place during the opening scene. Baraka was meant to have a much longer fight with Liu Kang, and Liu was not supposed to fight with some random sword he found on the wall. He was supposed to use 2 broken off Tarkatan arm blades as dual swords in a showdown with Baraka and 2 of his henchmen at the same time. The falling cage that killed Shiva in the movie was meant for Baraka, who actually survives being crushed and would inform Shao Kahn that the heroes had gotten away. So Baraka lives, allowing him to appear in what could have been a 3rd film. I've not mentioned it thus far, but there is a line in the script where Jax sees Shiva for the first time and he goes, "What the hell is that?" To which Sonya Blade responds, "I thought you liked big women." Johnny Cage still dies in the opening scene, but he fights Motaro first, and he drops a bunch of jokes in between. The type of one-liners that we got in the first movie and were just gone from the second. Ermac fights Katana and Sonya at the same time in the opening scene, and maybe most importantly of all, Ermac kicks Katana in the face when she says, "Mother, you're..." This means that, yes, the legendary line, "Too bad you will die," was not in the script. Where it came from, I do not know. Johnny Cage's neck is not snapped in the script. Instead, Shao Kahn gorilla press slams the shit out of him, so hard that he breaks through the stone floor and then he slowly dies in Sonya's arms. And oddly enough, Shao Kahn breathes Johnny's soul into his lungs and hits the "It has begun" line, calling back to the first movie. I think that would have been an awesome visual. Shao Kahn's death in the script was much more intense, with the world glitching back and forth between states of being and different realms with every hit of the final combo. Kahn's landing on his last bump rips open a black hole which tears his body to pieces. The black hole then collapses into itself, reverting the Earth back to its state before he ever arrived. One of the most interesting pieces of the script, at least in my opinion, is the relationship between Raiden and Shao Kahn. Now, like the final product, like the finished film, they are written to be brothers, but Raiden doesn't just keep this information to himself and secret from the good guys, which leads to strife in the 3rd act. In the script, Raiden doesn't know that Shao Kahn is his brother, and he doesn't figure it out until the 3rd act. We see a flashback to when Raiden was a young boy, fighting his brother for their dad's amusement, and to keep it brief, we learn Shao Kahn's real name is Galen. Who knew? Raiden defeats Galen. Shinnok throws a fit because he envisioned Galen as his heir, not Raiden. And blah blah blah, Raiden is cast out. Raiden doesn't put the pieces together that Shao Kahn is the grown-up version of Galen until the movie is almost over. To round things out, I just want to mention that Scorpion still appears to battle Sub-Zero on the ice bridge. But before he does, we were supposed to get this great shot of a ravaged corpse carried by the current in a river of lava. The camera would get closer and closer to the body, and when the body turns toward the camera, the eyes burst open. The corpse was that of Scorpion. His soul was emerging from the Netherrealm. This would have been so cool to see play out. And the cut ending with Quan Chi is widely known about. Yeah. There's even art out there of Quan Chi. There were home video releases that featured Quan Chi on the art, despite him not appearing in the movie, which is bizarre. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, the final scripted scene was to feature Shinnok and Quan Chi basically planting the seeds for what the third Mortal Kombat film would have been. Shinnok and Quan Chi together is the plot of Mortal Kombat 4, the game, so it makes sense that this is where they would have been going with the live-action films. There you go. Those are some of the major differences from script to screen on Mortal Kombat Annihilation. And I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to put the link to this script in the pinned comment on this video so you can read it for yourself and find all the other little differences that I didn't mention here. Does everything I just explained sound like a better movie? Sure. It sounds more entertaining. There are more fights, a couple more character moments. There's more going on. Here's the issue. Mortal Kombat Annihilation's problem has nothing to do with its entertainment value. It's a very entertaining movie the way it is, it just sucks in its execution. Even some of the things that were cool are executed very poorly. So we can't say that this would have made for a better movie all around. There's really no way to know that because even if the script wasn't touched, a lot of the stuff that sucks or a lot of the stuff that was cut was probably cut due to time and money constraints.
My powers are leaving me.
Thank you for watching Mortal Kombat Monday. If you liked this video, you want to see more like it, patreon.com/616entertainment is where you can go to support me and my work. It's honestly your support that allows me to do this, so I really appreciate it. Until next time, I will see you soon.